This motion picture is respectfully dedicated to Canada's great flying fraternity, the bush pilots, whose workaday jobs call for constant risks beyond the line of duty. Fighting forest fires, making daring Northland rescues and mercy flights, help prepare these winged heroes for their important roles in the development of the Royal Canadian Air Force and the charting of the Alaska Highway. Proudly we salute the memory of Major Jack Leach, one-legged Royal Flying Corps ace of World War I, who, as a bush pilot, found final sleep on the fog-bound shores of Lake Superior, and the memory of his son, Flight Sergeant Tony Leach, who fought and died for Canada in this war. To the Leaches, father and son, true heroes of the skies, may God bless you. Today, other flyers like these are performing brilliant aerial assists to the Ontario Fire Rangers. Those famous Forest Commandos who sometimes number as many as 2,000 men, particularly during a bad fire. To this valiant army goes the vital task of protecting and preserving Ontario's most precious treasure, that timber empire which lies nearly midway between the Atlantic and the Pacific. This is Canada, 9 great provinces and 2 great territories, all richly endowed with one of nature's most valued gifts, trees. And the vast forests of Ontario help make Canada a prime producer of choicest lumber, an even larger producer of the raw materials used in wood pulp products throughout the world. Yes, trees are Ontario's #1 natural resource and her foremost industry. Here is one of the hundreds of sawmills that help to process the tremendous output of over 50 million woodland acres. The power of modern machinery is exerted upon the Earth's priceless bounty, soon to take new and magical forms. Prefabricated houses, mosquito bombers, equally deadly PT boats. And from this pulp pile, raw materials for plastics, gunpowder, motor fuel, chemicals, and other numerous necessities of war and peace. Incidentally, Ontario is one of the largest producers of newsprint, exclusively serving great metropolitan dailies and many Canadian publications. But Ontario's scenic splendors and rich resources, like those of her sister provinces, are eternally battling dangerous enemies. The spruce budworm is responsible for damage running into staggering figures. Bush and forest fires each year inflict incalculable losses, leaving black desolation like this. Human carelessness is chiefly responsible, thoughtlessly discarded cigarettes and neglected campfires, the main causes of fires like this. Yes, between the flames, the insects, and destructive tree diseases, Ontario's gorgeous vacation lands, counting thousands of lakes stocked with trout, bass, pickerel, pike, and muskellunge, her 6 extensive provincial parks, bountifully groomed by nature for the pleasure of the tourist, her wild game and lumber and pulp product timber, all must be constantly protected from their natural enemies. The air arm of the Forest Commandos is the Provincial Air Service. Here, one of the seaplanes is broken out of its hangar. Meet Bill McCormick, veteran bush pilot. Yes, Bill could spiel many a hair-raising tale of exciting Northland exploit. But now we find him supervising the conditioning of his sleek little Stinson. And presently he's heading for one of the air bases, strategically placed throughout the northern part of the province. Scattered over the timbered territory is a network of 284 lookout towers, each spindling to a height of 80 to 100 feet. From these vantage points, thousands of acres are under constant and careful scrutiny. Continually, the towerman surveys his section through powerful binoculars. Have a look for yourself at a spot some 35 miles away. There's no privacy here, even for this Ojibwe Indian belle as she does a bit of homework. A large-scale map of the district covers the table, which is also equipped with a sighting instrument called an aide. Shortwave radio and telephone are near at hand. Soon we'll show you how the towerman uses all these things. Meanwhile, Bill has been flying on toward that northern air base. It's a lonely outpost, and the local residents are hungry for this exciting glimpse of the outside world. The one glimpse they may have for the next 6 months. Here, by pre-arrangement, Bill meets George Phillips, former noted bush pilot and ferry command captain, who spent part of his military service in a Vichy French North African internment camp. Mustered out of RAF Blue, George has become a district forester. Now he asks Bill to take him on an inspection tour. Dude campers and real bacon on the fire. Oh, brother. Bill and George have spotted the smoke, and that means investigate. One of George's many duties is acting the official host to campers. Sorry, boys, that fire's too open. Have to put it out quick. Water is the answer. Plenty of it to make sure. Particular cuss, this George, but here's one campfire that won't start anything bigger. Now for the proper place to build another. No bonfire either, but just a small, well-protected blaze to fry one's bacon and not one's beer. Before he leaves, George tacks up a sign, just to remind all campers what could happen. Continuing along the trail, George spots a balsam tree that appears to have been attacked by the spruce budworm. The forester takes specimen samples from the evergreen and sends them down to the Dominion entomologist, who receives the box and inspects its contents. Yes, George was right. The samples show the larvae of the spruce budworm, and protective measures must be quickly taken. Tree spraying with insecticides from aircraft is being employed experimentally. But selective cutting, which removes undesirable trees, is the most effective method of meeting the menace, according to forest experts. During our digression, George has been continuing along a narrow trail. What's this? An illegal trap? Look out, someone's coming. And not an eager beaver either, but our old enemy, the poacher. Good work, George. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police could use you. Now, while George takes his prisoner to the nearest provincial police headquarters, and Bill continues on that aerial inspection tour, let's look in at the Forest Ranger Station at Gogama. A sleepy little settlement of professional hunters, trappers, and those who cater to their needs. The infrequent caller will find a church, a school, a general store, and boarding house skirting the dirt streets. And speaking of the cow's proverbial contentment, here's a small herd grazing contentedly in the shade of the Gogama Hotel. It must be about milking time, though, because the big boss, Joe LaFlamme, has come to collect his wandering dairy. Meanwhile, at a nearby lookout tower, high above the rolling timberland, the tower man follows his monotonous routine. Suddenly, the glasses pick up smoke. Smoke, the ominous signal flag of threatened disaster. Turning quickly to his alidade, the tower man takes a reading, estimates the location, and reports his findings to the chief ranger at Gogama. Hello, Pete at Eagle Mountain Tower. Hiya, Pete, you old flagpole sitter. What's that? Smoke over near Shining Tree Lake? What's your rating? 175? Okay, Pete, keep us posted. We'll get on it right away. Now to find that reading on a map. Meanwhile, another tower reports. And by the simple method of intersection, the chief ranger determines the exact location of the blaze, placing a tack to mark the spot. Another tack goes into a map in the district forester's office, where we find our old friend George Phillips, on the job, as always. In Gogama, the sirens scream out their call for firefighters. While at the Gogama docks, an expert loading crew awaits the arrival of hastily summoned planes. Harry, the chief ranger, brings down more equipment, as Bill, our bush pilot, brings in his OAY. Minutes later, the hastily summoned OAX plane arrives, and equipment and provisions are speedily loaded. Pumps, pickles, pickaxes, and petroleum. Hose and ham and eggs and bread and butter and beans, all needed to fight a fire and feed the firefighters. And here's Joe LaFlamme again, lifting a 150-pound pump outfit as though it were a featherweight. Just as the planes are loaded, the Chief Ranger's crew of Forest Commandos arrives. But wait, they almost forgot Emma, the Ojibwe squaw, who hasn't missed a forest fire in the last 10 years. Heave-ho, boys. It's no easy trick to lift the heavily loaded planes, especially when canoes are strapped to their pontoons. At 2,000 feet, the speeding firefighters look down upon the scene of last year's big blaze. They note the irregular pattern the fire followed, the small amount of green forest that was spared. A mute challenge to do better this time. The planes race on toward the towering smoke. Here's how it looks, 30 miles away, through the windshield of OAX. It's closer now, and getting bigger by the minute. Roaring down over Shining Tree Lake, the planes circle the seething inferno. As well as a ground fire, a strong wind fanning the flames so violently that they're leaping from treetop to treetop and also spreading over the ground through the slash or dry brush. After a quick survey from the air, the pilots make short landings at the point most accessible to the fire line. First ashore is Harry, the chief ranger, who organized the starting crew. He heads into the bush with one of the smoke chasers. The rest of the crew quickly follow. Harry selects this spot as a relay point, marks a tree which will be recognized by the others, and then pushes on through the bush. Arrives at an inland creek. One man sets up the engine, and another prepares to string the hose. The relay crew is close behind and quickly assembles the equipment. As for Emma, she brings up the rear and a 90-pound canoe. Arriving at the fire line, Harry orders the installation of a Siamese hose connection, which will send water in 2 directions. Soon the lead-in hose from the creek is filling the canoe, while the second pump forces the water toward the fire line, transforming the limp hose into a writhing python. Noting that the fire has reached serious proportions, Harry dispatches a runner to radio George for more help. And here comes good old Emma. Back at the Gogama docks, the planes are reloading with more men and supplies, to be flown to Shining Tree Lake and quickly put ashore. Soon, these vital reinforcements are pouring into Harry's headquarters, established several hundred yards from the raging fire. Some of the men are put to digging a fire break to check the flames spreading along the ground. Others are broken up into smaller fighting units. It must be hot in there to make this gang leave in such a hurry. Meanwhile, George has received Harry's radio call for help and takes off in his little moth plane. While at the roaring fire line, the desperate battle goes on. Here's a pack pump, a one-man unit, used to put out spot fires behind the line before they can get going like this. George arrives over the scene of action, surveys the fire's spread from 200 feet, and sees that even more men are needed. He calls out a forestry corps detachment of the regular Canadian Army and speedy gas cars that race toward a spot from which the onrushing fire can be flanked, while additional manpower, drawn from nearby lumber camps, swarms ashore from Great Northern barges and other craft. And as the gallant firefighters battle through the blazing night, the news of their struggle pushes even the war off Ontario's front pages. Soon after dawn, George makes a personal inspection of the flaming front, informs Harry that the fire is fast becoming a conflagration. Gogama itself is threatened, and frantically its old men and young boys start a fire break. First to be evacuated are the school children. Wait a minute, don't leave Johnny. Customers and employees quickly evacuate the Hudson's Bay trading post as the village rushes to escape. Yes, even our cameraman is in a hurry. The priest takes a hasty census of the women and children in his parish, organizing the emergency exodus. Then suddenly, at fire line headquarters, the news is better. The blaze in this sector is now under control. Gogama safe. Weary rangers file into camp for their first rest in over 24 hours. Harry gazes up at the sky, sees gathering rain clouds, definite and deeply gratifying signs of complete victory over the smoking inferno below. The outside world rejoices at the great news. But back in 1941, Gogama wasn't so lucky. Then, the flames leveled the village to the ground. Carefully, groups of Forest Commandos patrol the burned-over area. The ashes still smolder, and the tired firefighters walk warily through the charred ruins, ready to beat out any sudden flare-up. Harry directs the work of these mop-up crews, dispatching 2 units along the dying fire line. Many fighters will be kept at the scene until the last dangerous spark is extinguished. Later, at the Gogama docks, Bill, the pilot, congratulates Harry and George on a job well done. But Bill has also done great work, and to all those gallant bush pilots, those flying aces of the famous Forest Commandos, whose workaday jobs call for constant risks beyond the line of duty, we proudly dedicate this picture.